Hi, Elena. This is Kelly Crowley. That's Cathy Jacobson. We're coming to you from Devonny Ranch High School. And you sent us an email and asked us to do some reflections over our tech integration that we did this year. And we're going to go ahead and start off with the first question that you had in our email. It was, why did you choose to work together? So for me, Cathy came to me 2 years ago with an email that basically said, hey, I'm recommending that you take this tech integration class. Little did I know what I was getting into, but I was very thankful for the recommendation. And I didn't really know that we were going to win the iPads at that time. And when we did win the iPads, then it came down to, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Now I need a partner. And luckily, Cathy Jacobson and I, we both co-authored the grant to win the iPads. So first of all, when I found out that I would be working with Cathy, I knew it was going to be a good mesh because she is the type of person that is an absolute go-getter. She gets things done, and I knew that our personalities would mesh well because she was a former honors chemistry teacher as well, AP teacher as well, and I really needed someone that had a little bit of a connection to not only the tech integration, but also to the curriculum itself.
And as the technology coordinator at Devonny Ranch High School, I knew it was important for me to find somebody who really wanted to integrate tech, which Kelly was one of those people. Again, I had recommended her to take a tech integration class, and it's because she was already starting to integrate technology. In addition, she is a go-getter. She's calling me a go-getter, but she is also a go-getter, and I knew she wouldn't give up in the middle of our project. And so I knew that she would be a good partner for me. And both of us, I think, really feel that we are able to be honest and open with each other. And that was really, really important to both of us.
All right. The second question that you asked was how we began and how we sustained our collaboration throughout the year. And when we first started off, it was a very professional relationship where we had set times, set meetings, and we both, were very careful about arriving on time and things like that. But as the year progressed, we started realizing that with the integration of technology, we were capable of contacting each other outside of maybe normal, standardized collaboration times. We met at lunch. We texted each other after school hours. Anytime I could get her, we were both mutual as far as that goes.
We met at Starbucks a handful of times, and it's important to understand that when you're collaborating with somebody on this type of a project, it takes up more than just your school day because your brain works overtime and you start to think of all kinds of ideas and you want to touch base sometimes on those kinds of things. And everybody knows in teaching, we don't get enough thinking time. We don't get enough collaboration time. So there were times when on a weekend we would spend a couple hours at Starbucks just brainstorming, simply discussing what we were doing. And again, with the iPads, it took a lot of brainstorming on how we were going to use them because neither of us had really used iPads in a classroom. So we had a lot of research that we had to do regarding that.
And also, to extend a little bit, I think one of the most amazing things that Cathy has also taught me this year is that it's not just preparing a lesson and then just doing a lesson. After the lesson is already over, the reflection thinking time is probably the most critical part of integrating your technology. You really have to look back and look at the usefulness, the effectiveness, and really come together as a team to see what kind of improvements you can make, or maybe just scrapping something altogether.
Right. And Kelly was very good about holding us to that reflection time. And that was really important because so many things can get in the way of that reflection time. And so Kelly was very open and honest and saying, we need to have this time and we need to do this. And we were pretty lucky. We were able to team teach for one period during the school day. So we would team teach, present everything together that very first chemistry period. And then Kelly would do the rest of the presentations on her own for her second two classes. And what we found through the school year is that first period that we presented was a little bit rough. But then when Kelly went to do it with her second two classes, it went much more smoothly. And her second two classes ended up doing quite well with the experiments, and we were able to get all of the little kinks worked out in that first chemistry class.
And sometimes that first chemistry class also coincided with a lunch right after. And I got to tell you, for some reason, that just really allowed us a lot of reflection time. She'd bring her lunch down, and it was right after that first class. And having that think time was really helpful for me as a teacher. And I found myself sometimes reflecting, trying to reflect, like right in the middle of the curriculum.
Yes, both of us did that.
Yeah. So
yeah. The next question that you asked is what realizations you made along the way, and we made a lot of realizations along the way. And one of those things is you don't use tech just for the sake of tech, but sometimes you start that way and then you improve the way you use tech, because you've got to start somewhere. And nobody has taught us how to integrate the technology into a classroom. There's lots of ideas, but it's really much easier to integrate if you have a model, if somebody models for you.
And speaking from someone, who's in charge of the curriculum, I found I got kind of frustrated with the amount of junk that is out there from chemistry, like chemistry stuff, and I realized it didn't fit, it didn't mesh. And one of the things that I told Kathy at the beginning of the year was, you know what, technology needs to wrap around me.
Yep.
I'm not going to wrap around technology. It's not going to go the other way. Technology needs to wrap around what I expect, what my expectations are. And I held us to that. I stuck us to that. And reflecting at the end of the year, I'm really glad that I stuck to that, because using technology just to use technology will get you into a heap of mess.
And it's really not worth it. Curriculum has to come first. And that's one thing that we found along the way. And I believe this wholeheartedly when I say this. Curriculum must come first. It's how do you use the technology to enhance your curriculum? That's really the question. And that's what you really need to focus on. You don't just use the technology to use it. You need to focus on how can this technology make my curriculum better? How can it? And we found some awesome lessons that really deepened the understanding of our students just by doing those lessons. And it really was only a handful of lessons that we were able to design this year that got to the depth that we really wanted them to get to, because it takes time and it takes resources. Like Kelly said, there aren't a lot of apps that are brilliant apps to do what you want to do. You really have to figure out how to use that technology. I have to say, however, that we need to start focusing on Common Core. That's one thing we talked about. You're supposed to be focusing on Common Core. And technology helps you focus more on Common Core and do more Common Core type activities and really meet more Common Core standards more easily. That's the one thing the technology can do for you. It can help you meet those Common Core standards more easily.
Yeah, and one of the things that I realized along the way was I really needed someone that not only could handle a little bit of the technology piece, but I really needed someone who had a little bit of the core curriculum, because sometimes I just needed someone to wing it for me as far as collecting things off of the internet that would be useful and helpful. And if you have someone that doesn't have any chemistry background trying to do that for you, it could get a little hairy. And so having her was like the ultimate partner relationship for me. Another thing that we realized along the way was, Kathy started off as being more, like, we assigned roles. We said, you know what, Kelly, you're going to be me. I'm going to be in charge of curriculum. She's going to be in charge of tech. And we tried to make a barrier. Well, the thing that we realized along the way was, that's not going to happen. No. Her role started meshing into me. She started, realizing some of the curriculum pieces, and I needed that. And then towards the end of the year, I started wanting to more control the technology piece. And so Kathy was able to relinquish a little control, and same with me. and we started letting go. And I think once we started letting go, things clicked
just
faster. So
they just flowed. And we did start off with me doing a lot of the technology. And I do think
You
that
need that.
having a partnership like this has been so beneficial for both of us, because my plan is to continue to integrate technology with teachers in my building. And the things that I've learned from this have been priceless. Learning, that it's a lot of work and it's scary for a classroom teacher. Because, like Kelly has told me so many times, she's a perfectionist. I mean, how many of us aren't? We are all perfectionists. But she's a perfectionist. And so sometimes going into those labs and not knowing what was going to happen. So we're using this technology and we had no idea what was going to happen. And
well,
then,
I mean, you try to plan as much as you can. So I'm going to go to your next question, which was the barriers and challenges along the way. Seems like we're kind of diving into that. So, so one of the things that happened was we set up a lab. It was a virtual lab, and we tested it. We both did the lab.
Yep.
We had people, like her daughter did the lab. My husband did the lab, and everybody loved it and thought it was great. All right, then comes, when we actually go live is what I got to say. Let's go live. So went live with the students, and I'm smiling now. I was not smiling then.
It was quite the experience. And the one thing that was interesting for me is we had a couple of glitches, and Kelly wanted those resolved like immediately because she felt like it was a huge deal. And as the tech coordinator, since I've been doing this for 10 years, I was far more relaxed about it. And so I didn't quite get her sense of urgency. So it was very interesting how we were both, it was a totally different perspective. And yet I think it's really important for you guys to understand this, because this is what happens. This is real life. And it was great for me to understand where Kelly was coming from. And then Kelly also got my perspective, and we now are at a point after using the technology realizing it's okay.
Yeah.
This is going to happen. And so you're learning to be flexible in the moment. And it's not easy when you're used to having your classroom just...
Yeah, I mean, when she says I'm a perfectionist, I know it's something that I need to work on. That's actually one of the things that I think is a weakness of mine, is how asymmetrical minded I can sometimes be. And when you integrate technology, you really need to be a lot more flexible as an educator. She experiences technology every day. And so she's used to these glitches. I'm not. I'm used to lesson plan. Yeah, my lesson plan, as a teacher, you design your lesson plan to be perfect from beginning to middle to end. All the pieces have to connect. And when they aren't connecting the way you thought they were, when you've got a personality like me, you kind of fall apart. And I got to tell you,
she didn't fall apart. Just so you know, she did not fall apart.
I didn't fall apart, but it's something that you have to manage in your brain. The way you tackle situations and the way you approach solutions, you really need to be careful and be able to mitigate through those obstacles. So yeah.
And so couple of the other challenges that we found. One, we found with technology. Just managing the technology is a challenge.
I think the way she said it isn't important enough. I don't think she had enough emphasis in her voice. The managing the tech has got to be one of the hugest obstacles, time-wise.
Time.
I wish that I had enough time to manage the technology. I've got the curriculum itself is also a time piece. So
that was the second biggest amount of time that we spent was designing. We were trying to design good lessons. You want to design really great lessons. That's the important part. And yet, if you don't have the technology managed, if you don't have the apps you need, if you don't have those kinds of things, so they kind of hook together. You kind of have to do both. And it was a ton of time in designing lessons.
And then, of course, that iPads are not compatible with Flash, Word docs, things like that. Those little tiny things can make a big difference in your lesson planning. And so that was another obstacle for us.
Yep.
All right. You ready for this one? Let's go to some other realizations and reflections that we had. Okay, so my classes are usually, think about your chemistry classroom back in high school. loud labs, lectures, classwork. It's a loud place. It's kind of an organized chaos. These iPads focused the students, and I was not prepared for the silence.
It was brilliant. And they were so focused. And our first lesson that we did, they were so focused that they wanted to take the iPads with them home.
I remember that.
Because they weren't finished. And they wanted to finish. And I've never in my life experienced that, where the students were so motivated they were going to just take the iPads home and do it. And unfortunately, we couldn't let them do that. And that was one of those, it's a barrier. It honestly is a barrier to integrating tech the way we would want to integrate it.
Another reflection that we had was some of the students had a little bit of a resistance to the whole technology, just really wrapping their mind around the technology and using it. I had a student that refused to set up an email account. Yeah. Don't worry, he's doing great now.
Yes.
But a lot of can we just do this on a worksheet?
Yep.
That was a really common comment.
And it's because it really challenged them to think. And that was huge. The challenge in the thinking was just huge. I mean, it made us realize we were so glad we were doing it, because it was really stretching them and really expanding their worlds and making them think. And I think that was really great.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, we did have one iPad break. Kid caught it between two desks, and did we have, I don't remember if we had the cases at that point. We did have the cases for the iPads.
Yeah, the case was on it.
The case was on it, but the case wasn't protective enough, and so it broke along the edge. We were able to salvage the iPad, and we put it in a different case so the kids wouldn't get cut with the glass. So we're still using the iPad. It's still usable, but that was a little bit of a shock, and you kind of got to be prepared for that. Yeah. It's not that you plan on kids doing that. You just prepare for it.
Yeah. So know what your warranties are and how they work. So
yeah.
All right. Another really great reflection that we had was at the beginning of the year. Awesome. I was stressing out. I was a little stressed out because I told Kathy, I'm like, we're behind from last year. We're behind, Kathy. We need to go faster. And she's like, but we have to train the kids. It's okay. Everything will be great. All right. Well, guess what? Great news. We're ahead. So you start kind of slower than you normally would think that you would. And that's okay, because you need to go through the red tape is almost like what I call it. It's almost like growing pains. You have to kind of go through that with the students, and the students get faster and faster and faster. And I was delighted to be able to say that I actually ended the year sooner than what I thought.
Yeah. So it's kind of a move slow to go fast kind of thing. So
some other barriers that we encountered were a little bit of the connectivity, the access to the internet, the broadband service that we had here. So that was a little bit of a barrier for us, a little slower. Mm-hmm. And one other reflection that I had is that the homework aspect was a little tough for students who didn't have access to computers at home. Still something that we're trying to manage at Damani Ranch High School. We're really lucky to have computers in all of our classes. And so we started making that a non-excuse. Yep. And I think if you set that expectation for the students, it's no longer a problem. It shouldn't be a problem for these guys.
And so the last line on our list of questions was, did we have any advice for tech integration? And I think that our biggest comment is, you need to do this with somebody that you trust and somebody that you can be open and honest with. And that has been, it's been an amazing collaboration for the two of us. It has been amazing because we've made so much progress, not just with the technology, but as people. And because you learn so much from each other. That's the thing. And I can't even tell you, I told Kelly, I've had a really rough year, but this part of it was the best thing I've ever done. It is the best thing I've ever done. So it didn't have anything to do with this. It absolutely, integrating technology into a classroom and working with Kelly has been brilliant. It's just been absolutely brilliant. I've loved it. I've loved every second of it. In my opinion, we did what tech coordinators should be doing, and that is integrating technology into the curriculum and really focusing on what teachers and students need. Yeah. And so I think that you really need to look at who you're partnering with.
Yeah, for me, you need to be able to have those honest conversations and not have the other person judge you for those honest conversations that you do have. One of the things that really upset me this year was, well, it started off as being upset, but then I figured it out. We had an administrator walk in on us during my flip out lab, and and you know, she gave us some honest observations. They were just observations, but that perfectionist in me saw them as negative. And one of the things that I would strongly recommend to the tech coordinator, the teacher, the whole team, whoever you're working with, is the way that you look at everyone else's perspective. I've got administrators that think I'm a god, all right? Because they think that they walk in and they think, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this. And it's amazing. And no matter what you do, you're amazing. And then I've got other people that will come in and just do pure observations. And I love that. And I should love that as a scientist. And yet at the same time, when I first saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, you saw a student off task. You know, oh my gosh, you saw a student asking a bunch of questions. You know, and it's just feedback. You gotta roll with this and understand that the way that you perceive things will make or break you personally on a personal level. So you really need to make sure that you're open and honest, that you've got someone that's got your back, basically, and that can, like, seriously, I swear Kathy put out some fires in me and helped me to see the whole picture. So,
and really, you can't be afraid to go for it.
That's the other
the bottom line.
That's it right there.
You have to just go for it, because, you know, you can test, try this, try that, but until you just go for it and do it,
just do it.
You have no idea what's going to happen. You can do little test environments and you can minimize some of the stuff, but really just going for it and just testing it. And it's, yeah, sometimes you got that sinking, you know, pit in your stomach where you're like, oh, that didn't go as well as I wanted. But you learn so much.
Learn from your mistakes. Yeah, learn from your mistakes. Learn from the things that went well. Learn from the things that didn't go well. And like I said, the reflection piece is critical. Don't just do a lesson and not reflect. You've got to reflect.
You have to reflect. You have to reflect. So anyways, do you have anything else?
I'm good.
So that's it from us. I will be Skyping with you as well if you have questions on this. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Bye, Elena.